This video is about the importance of breaking down goals into smaller steps. This is a clip from a conversation I had with fellow YouTuber Nick Shalley. The topics discussed are how breaking goals down into smaller tasks can help with self-discipline, why breaking goals down into smaller pieces can reduce stress and anxiety, and how breaking goals into manageable sizes can improve time management. Since Nick is a programmer, he gives a few examples related to his job, but the principles discussed are very general. Section 1. Self-discipline. How breaking goals down into smaller tasks can help. So another thing that I think is, to me, interesting about you, knowing you for so long, we're just good friends going a long ways back, is just how self-disciplined you are. And obviously, my whole channel is on being self-disciplined, and you are so self-disciplined, you might be more self-disciplined than I am, which I probably shouldn't admit. But I'm just curious. So, like, what is it that kind of drives you to work so hard and be so self-disciplined?
I always have to have a goal in mind, and and it should be like a tangible quantitative goal. And I should always have a plan to achieve that goal. And at this point, just because I have so much stuff going on in my life, it has to be a written plan that I can hold myself accountable to. And if I don't have a goal and a written plan to get to that goal, then I'm not going to do it. And that's just like where I kind of am in my life right now. And I think some folks might, especially in the programming community, might see that there's just so much breadth of information out there, and how am I going to learn all of this? And the truth is that, well, first off, you're not going to learn all of it, but also if you just look at this breadth of information, it's going to be so overwhelming unless you put together a plan that has small measurable steps to actually get to a goal that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like that's kind of even more general than programming. Like, that's just something that comes up and I see over and over again, whether it's exercising, whether it's wanting to get into meditating, whether it's just whatever work someone's doing, whether it's studying at school. It's this kind of like, if you look at the big picture, if you look at this overwhelming kind of, how can I do all this stuff? It's going to be almost impossible. But if you break it down into something really small, something really specific, and just kind of really detail out what you're going to do, and kind of in a practical way, it gets you out of that kind of like, it both gets you out of the overwhelming mindset. It also gets you out of the kind of like the big dream, but no like plan to follow through with the dream kind of thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because it's not like in high school I was like, I need a goal and I need steps to get to that goal. No, I mean, so I learned this because I spent the majority of my formative programming years thrashing about, like not knowing how the heck I'm going to accomplish what I want to accomplish, right? I had no overall goal and no overall plan. And so a lot of it was just like Googling, like, how can I learn web development? Can I become a software engineer? And you can actually get into these click holes for hours and hours and hours on end of just like, can I do this, or how do I do this? And, it turns out if you make a plan and execute your plan, you actually would, the time you spend Googling, like, is it possible, you would actually have gotten a decent way there. So, it's sometimes it's about making a plan and doing it versus like kind of getting into this cycle of despair over there's so much out there and how can I do it.
Section 2. Stress. Why breaking goals down into smaller pieces can reduce stress and anxiety. Do you ever have stress and anxiety when learning to code? Just in terms of how difficult, like, let's say you have a really difficult problem. I'd imagine that in programming, there's a lot of just like, how do I solve this? Google doesn't even seem to have an answer. One of those things where you Google everything and you're like, where is this? Like, do you ever experience stress during those situations? And if so, like, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, for sure. So if you have, for example, a project or a type of project you want to do, one key is to break that down into small enough pieces and let those pieces each be their own accomplishment, so that you can knock out the first piece, and depending on how you track your work, you can knock that out, and you can actually have like a visual indication of getting things done, even though the entire larger project is taking a while.
Section 3, time management. How breaking goals into manageable sizes can improve organization. You've mentioned before kind of you plan things out. So I'm kind of curious, like what does your to-do list system look like? How do you kind of manage and organize all the things that you want to learn and do?
Yeah, so my to-do list, generally speaking, will be a Kanban board. I'm not sure if you're familiar, if you've used Kanban boards, but essentially, a good free example of software that can be used as a Kanban board is Trello. And so Kanban technique, generally you have a sort of a column of things that you want to do, and it might be called to do. Then you have a column of things called doing. So you would drag items from to do into doing when you start doing them. And then you would have a column of done. And so I think I mentioned before about like breaking projects or tasks up into smaller pieces. And so what I tend to do is I tend to do that and sort of put them in my to-do list on the Kanban board. And then as you drag them across into doing and into done, you get this nice satisfaction of seeing all the stuff that you've done and all the stuff that you've learned. And it's a nice accounting. And so I've really taken to that system because it's very simple, and it also helps you gain a sense of accomplishment.
I love that. I love the way you laid out your process. And I particularly love the breaking things down to small steps, because I feel like that's kind of a universal that kind of cuts across whatever someone's personal system is. You hear over and over again the people who are kind of most successful, they're able to kind of break things down into little pieces so they don't get overwhelmed, and so they can manage things, so they can, prioritize within those little things. I feel like that's kind of a fundamental aspect of organization.
Oh yeah, it's like if you like pretty much any even medium size or even small size programming project, if you just look at it like as one piece of work, then that's horrifying. Like there's no way you're going to be able to tackle that without feeling totally overwhelmed. So yeah, piecing it out is immensely helpful.
If you like this, make sure to check out my video on how to break down goals into steps. It is a much more in-depth walkthrough of exactly how to break your goals down into smaller tasks. You can find Nick Shalley on YouTube and Twitter. Info in the description. Thanks for watching, and best of luck on your journey to build self-discipline.